are Pro Cannabis Media.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. You're with us here on the Green Rush. We do this every Friday from 4 to 6. I'm David Rabinovitz, your host, joined by Curt Dalton of Cannabis.net. We've got some great guests, and we have somebody new who just joined us. Ben is out in California, my stepson, and he has been texting me about the price differential between Massachusetts weed. And then last night he started to text me about the difference in quality. So I want to introduce Ben, and he's going to, over the next few minutes, we're just going to talk a little bit about the difference between markets. This ties in a little bit with what we spoke about last week when we were talking about interstate transport and how each market is a market onto its own, and the pricing of the products are much different by state. Ben, introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, David. So as David mentioned, I'm his stepson, and we smoke weed pretty much every night together. So we have a pretty good understanding of what's strong and what's not strong. Sorry if I just let the cat out of the bag for David, but
tough job, buddy. It's a tough job, but somebody's got to.
You got to understand, Carl was going to become a DEA agent, so we got a DEA agent wannabe on the show, and now he knows I smoke weed. Oh,
just tell me he has his pants on, okay? Just tell me he's wearing pants, then we can continue.
Yeah, you're just testing product, we're just making sure the quality's good. Anyway, I'm a medical patient in Massachusetts, and I can get pretty strong, 25% to 30% strain for a quarter for about $90. Obviously, there's no taxes on it in Massachusetts, and I thought that would be the same thing. Come over as a medical patient to California. That's not the case at all, and it's especially bad in Los Angeles. So what it is there's a 15% excise tax that you're going to pay, and then there's a 10% local cannabis tax you pay on top of that, and then there's a 9.5% sales tax you pay on top of that. And I said, but hold on, wait a minute, I'm a medical patient here. Should none of that matter? This is medicine. They said, okay, yes, you get 5% off of being a medical patient. So my first experience at the store was I thought, okay, but the weed's cheaper anyway, so it shouldn't matter. I bought 5 grams for $30. It was supposed to be 25%. Brought it back to my buddy's apartment, smoked a joint of it. It was evident after the first hit that this was not 25% THC. It wasn't nearly as strong as anything I'd smoked in Massachusetts. And I asked my friend about this. He said, yeah, that stuff's not regulated. The percentages aren't correct. Now, I don't know if that is the case or not, but in Massachusetts, if it's 25%, it definitely tastes pretty strong. It's definitely pretty strong weed. So I went back the following day to another cannabis store that looked like an Apple store. It was gorgeous inside. Looked like nothing I'd seen in Massachusetts, at least. Just a gorgeous store. The guy's showing me all the strains. I explained to him the issue I had at the previous dispensary I went to. And I said to him, I want to get something strong here. I'll pay a little extra, doesn't matter. So he gives me a 42% strain and a 35% strain. Bring them both back. So that was $60 for 1/8, $40 for the other 1/8, which is still more than I would have paid in Massachusetts for a quarter of some strong stuff. Thinking this is going to be way stronger than anything I've smoked in Massachusetts, just based off of the THC levels. Get back to the apartment again, smoke it. It's good. It's good. It's still not better than the weed that I'm smoking in Massachusetts consistently. I'd say everything I picked up in Massachusetts for the last 6 to 8 months has been better than all of the weed that I picked up in California, and it's cheaper and it's tax-free. So not going to say it's been a disappointing experience in California. The weather is fantastic out here, but in terms of weed, I think Massachusetts has a pretty good setup the way it's operating right now.
So what do you think about the value you got per dollar? Right, because I think you said California was less expensive, but it seems like it's a lot less potent too.
Yeah. So I think the range of weed you can get in California, you can probably buy really, really cheap weed that's not strong at all for less. But if you want to buy incredibly strong stuff, you're going to end up paying way more than you would in Massachusetts for very strong stuff. In Massachusetts, I haven't really had any experience buying bad weed. Maybe if you're going to buy 16% stuff, it's not as strong, but it's not necessarily, bad weed. But the top range stuff in Massachusetts isn't nearly as expensive as the top range stuff over here.
So if I did the math real quick, you were at about 38% tax with the 5% discount. When you were saying the numbers, you kind of know roughly you're at. Was that the overall tax level you got as a medical patient?
Yeah, 38% as a medical patient in Los Angeles, which is
Because you got the
insane.
5% discount. So guys in New Jersey, what is the proposed overall, all in tax rate going to be? Like Ben was saying, there's the city, there's the excise, there's the sales tax, there's the, we know you like weed tax. So New Jersey's looking at what number if you were to open today, your stores or your store?
So the way in New Jersey has a very interesting tax structure. The sales tax, the state sales tax will stay the same. It's going to be right around 7%. Municipality is going to be able to add on an additional 2%. For instance, we speak mostly on the side of retailers. They are allowed to only attach like 1% to
the excise. There's the sales tax. There's the we know you like weed tax. So New Jersey's looking. Little feedback there. Thanks, Dan.
So all in all, New Jersey will get close to 20%, because there is a 10% excise tax that is going to be added on to cultivators that will find its way down the supply chain to the consumer as well. So all in all, you'll be close to 20 to probably 23%, depending on where you're at, because some municipalities will add the full 2%, some might not. So you will see those taxes. You'll be close to anywhere between 20 to 23% in New Jersey, which is probably very close to Massachusetts recreational tax. I think it's close to like 20%. So it's going to be high. It ends up being high. And then also, I'm just like everything else in New Jersey, the price point is going to probably start higher than you're used to seeing in most West Coast states. The East Coast cannabis has just been relatively expensive, even on the legacy market side.
Gotcha. Well, Ulysses and Alissa have joined us. David, give us the intros and let's continue.
Great. So we've got two more guests joining us now. One of my favorite people in cannabis is Alissa Nowak. We've worked together a lot, and after several shots at it, we got a host community agreement. She's going to be licensed in the state soon. And Ulysses Youngblood, who around here is a legend. So welcome, Ulysses and Alissa. It's great to have both of you. Ulysses, I was just talking about you today with Aaron Goins. About 30 minutes before the show, we were chatting about what's going on in Worcester. So everybody speaks very highly of you. So I'm going to let the two of you introduce yourself, and then we're going to get you right in the mix of the conversation. Ulysses, why don't you start off? Tell us about Major Bloom.
Ladies first. Ladies first. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. So Lucky Green Lady.
She needs Ulysses. Alissa needs to get comfortable in front of the camera. She's like a rising star. She always convinces herself that she's going to be too nervous to talk.
Oh, word.
You just helped, I'm sure. Go ahead.
I had to threaten her with pictures of her standing there with an "I hate weed" sign to get her to come on the show.
Wow, that's a perfect time to go to lead us off. Then you're doing great.
Thank you. So who's starting? Me, I guess.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, I'm Alissa, as David said, and we just got our host community granted in the town of Norton. I'm the owner of Lucky Green Ladies, which at first was going to be a retail establishment, but now we've transitioned to being a delivery operator. We're family-owned, women-owned, LGBTQ business. We just actually today had our application deemed complete by the Cannabis Control Commission.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you. Yes. So it's exciting.
You'll have a license within 90 days.
I hope so. It's exciting. I never thought that I would be at this point, coming from the legacy market, but everything's truly a blessing, and I'm happy to give back and to really serve, the community the way that, the legacy market has been so good to me. So, I'm just really blessed to be here, and that's pretty much it.
Good job.
Thanks.
Awesome. I guess that leads to my turn here. This is the third time we're on the show, so I'll be brief.
You get a jacket at the fifth time. Like
get a jacket.
Live.
Oh, word! I'll hold you guys to that for real. I might just create it myself just to do it.
Deal.
Oh yeah. So yeah. President of Major Bloom. We are vertically integrated through delivery, retail, and manufacturing here in Worcester. I guess we got the host agreement back in 2019, and it's just been a journey ever since getting our place built out for those 3 license types. And we opened our retail doors on August 9th, I think, officially. And then we just got our commenced operation for manufacturing last Monday. And then I just got an email from our inspector. He's like, oh, get us the rest of the information for your delivery license. So our delivery license is hopefully going to be active by the end of the year, if not early next year. And, we'll have those 3 verticals just running through and doing things uniquely here. So, just excited to be here. And, Worcester's right in the middle of the state. So if you guys are in the area, definitely check us out. We have very economical pricing when it comes to pre-rolls, when it comes to flower, and pretty soon we'll be producing some edible lines as well.
So Ulysses and Alissa, we were talking to Jonathan and Carl about the legacy market and getting customers to convert. Now, obviously the benefits are safety, not only of the product, but where you're getting the product, leaving the establishment. Again, the actual product mold testing. Those are the benefits, but obviously the pricing on the other side is going to be a lot steeper than if you knew someone selling it in the legacy market. What are your thoughts on pricing, which you just brought up, very economical, and converting someone who's used to getting it from a buddy or from a grower they know to come in your stores? And I know, Alissa, you're not open yet, but Ulysses, you are, so you go first.
Yeah, sure. So I think Alyssa's spot on when she talks about the, representing the legacy and traditional market, because, price sensitivity is massive. I mean, I was just sweeping up the garbage the other day and someone was rolling a blunt right in front of my spot. And they're like, oh, we get quarters for $45. And the next day they came in here and bought pre-rolls, right? Because, it's convenience, right? And they can get a pre-roll for, anywhere from $8 to $12 in our store if we make it. So I think just tapping into what the traditional market is, it's, basically being able to break down pounds, being able to break down units and distribute them that way. And I think that's the benefit of us having our manufacturer's license, is that we can just buy 10 pounds of weed and do the packaging ourselves, and then pass that value down to people. I'll tell you, there's one strain that we have. If we were to get it from a cultivator directly prepackaged, we'd have to sell it for $60 an eighth. Now, because we're buying it in bulk, we're able to break it down just like the legacy market and sell those eighths for $30. So, for us, it's always just been about, tapping into what the legacy is about and the legacy traditional market, what it's about, and bringing it to the forefront of, what this legal market is.
How about you, Alissa? Your first customer, you got to convince someone to transition to use your service from the legacy. What are you telling them?
I mean, the guys that were on before me really hit the nail on the head. For me, I would just say the biggest thing is not having to look over your shoulder, not having to meet somebody in a sketchy parking lot, and kind of what Ben said, David's stepson, that the testing and the results in Massachusetts are, way more accurate than anywhere else you can get. You don't know what you're smoking on the black market. I mean, we all trust, the legacy market, we all trust, our guy that we're getting from, but, they're probably getting it from somebody else who's getting it from somebody else. We don't really know what's in that product. And I also think, the testing side of it is huge for the customers. And also just supporting people that are making this transition in life. Like, I know a bunch of people that I used to take care of are like, let me know when you're up and running because I want to support you. So I think there's a ton of consumers out there that are looking for people that are doing the right thing and, making it for themselves. And I think that there's a lot of, people that want to support that. So I think that, it will be expensive for, probably a few more years, but I think that over time, as they said before, that, the supply will definitely even out the demand, and, there'll be a lot of vertically integrated businesses that will be able to really compete with the prices. So overall in the wholesale market, I think that would bring the prices down. And then also, I think it's a real benefit that I am a social equity participant. So I have the networking with the people in my program, and I'd like to think that we're all going to stick together in a sense. And I also like to think, because those people have that experience in the legacy market, that they're going to be way better growers than, the big corporate cannabis are. So I think that that's going to give us a little bit of a leg up.
Let's talk a little bit about the hurdles of getting into the market, and not just like the simple stuff, but I'm talking about the stuff that you can't tangibly see. And now we're going to spin things around and remove Curt Dalton as a co-host, and he's becoming a guest. Curt, tell us about the licensing process up in Kittery, Maine. I understand they just recently had, they had a great process. They put it together. You could have only one applicant per entity, and the entities were supposed to, they were going to go all the way back through the ownership to make sure that they had different ownership in each entity, something along those lines. Curt, tell us what happened up in Kittery.
Well, unfortunately, like a lot of the lottery shams, as we put it up on the website, it's gotten a lot of traction, as you've seen in Illinois, Nevada, even here in Massachusetts. It's a lot of pay for play. And to kind of fast forward, what happened was they had a lottery ball system. A landlord kind of opened up a loophole with the town that said, I don't want to be married to one applicant. I want to be able to let as many applicants as I want to use my address. That landlord was charging for each applicant, whether you got this place or not, just to use the address. So then a smart MSO came in, Theory Wellness, and basically bought half the balls in the lottery, which is about $250,000, set up a whole bunch of S Corps. And I wouldn't say they rigged the game, but they just played the game and had deeper pockets than anyone else. And now we have an MSO got 2 out of the 3 license in a very desirable location that borders on New Hampshire by about 30 seconds and Massachusetts by 2 minutes, has UNH right down the street, is a big tourist location with outlet malls. And you're going to have 2, most likely, Theory Wellness MSO buildings in there. The good news is one of the licenses did go to a local applicant who has a medical shop there, really great guy, and he's super excited. He lives in Kittery, but it should have been all 3 or some version of that.
So they paid $750 per ball, right?
Correct.
And then in order to be able to pay $750 per ball, they paid whatever the fee is to the Secretary of State in Maine
$250
to organize
Yep.
all those LLCs, right?
Yes.
So they drop $250,000, maybe more, to increase their odds. But if I understand it, they probably had about half of the balls that were in the buckets that were being pulled, right?
Like 48%. Yep.
Right. So if they had 48%, I'm pretty good with numbers. If you're going to pick 3 times, you got pretty good odds of being picked and winning at least one. And obviously all the local players just got squeezed out, but one of them, because an out-of-state player decided to play games. Ulysses or Alissa, since you both are well into the licensing queue, have you run across anything like that? Big players playing funny games? Go ahead, Ulysses. I like that smile.
Well, you say funny games. I don't know if it's really funny. I mean, it's just very, as we talk about the legacy market, I think it's traditional for big business. And we talk about lobbyists, talk about companies that have deep pockets. I mean, this is kind of what America was built on. So it's not too uncommon. I think in my own experience, especially being a resident in Worcester and, owning a couple of licenses here in a business, there was a time where I had to take off the business hat and show up as a constituent or show up as a resident of the city and be like, hey, do you really want these big businesses here? Or are you for, people that are for the city? Because the profits that are made here are going to stay within the community as opposed to going back to California or Colorado or the Canadian Stock Exchange. So I think just knowing what we're up against, but then also knowing how to play our part, right? As local people, as people of color, as women, as other leaders that are diverse in this industry, we kind of have to, lean on those, those criteria to play the game, because, it's not too uncommon for these big guys to just pay people off, honestly.
Yeah, no, I
So,
totally agree with
Alissa,
that. I totally agree with that.
Did your application process go smooth?
No, it did not. And it actually had to do with multi-state operators and big companies. They had started lobbying with the town far before the bylaws were even released, which was really tough, because I kind of got into the process late. They also, it's kind of funny, I won't say who they are, but they already have their 3 licenses. So this whole time when they were, lobbying to the town, they were saying, oh, we're going to be under name XYZ. We're going to be named under XYZ, which was the company that had the 3 licenses. And then as soon as the application process came around and it was time to submit, they changed their name. They changed their name to only have like half of it in there and with a different owner. But the CEO who has those 3 licenses had been going and lobbying and, making relationships with the town this whole time, and then right at the end switched it up. So that also gave the town was confused. They're this time thinking like, wow, these people have so much experience, they're so successful, they have a lot of money, but really like the person, they didn't really. So that really sucked. It was like a bait and switch. And that was really challenging. And it's also challenging, from a municipal standpoint they don't want, not that they don't want local operators, but at the end of the day, a lot of them just care about the revenue. And in their mind, they're thinking like, oh, because, they have other businesses and, they're a big corporation, that they're going to be successful. They're not thinking about the quality of the product, how we're going to take care of our consumers, how this money is going to be spent, the donations that will be made, the care that will be put into this business. They don't really even look into any of that. So that was really tough, and just competing with them. So that's why actually I was going for retail, and then I had to switch gears into delivery operator because I lost to two big companies in the town, which was really unfortunate. And I mean, I know maybe I'm biased, but I personally thought that, I was definitely at least better than one of them. But, I guess money talks, and, having the support of, that name behind you, really goes a long way. So, but I'm excited to do the delivery nonetheless.
Jonathan and Carl, you're in New Jersey, and you're about just at the beginning of the Rex phase of what are you feeling, or what are you seeing along this line in New Jersey?
Oh, I was so hoping you asked this question because I was so ready to back up Alissa.
Bad there.
Because everything that Alissa and Ulysses have said that happened in Massachusetts has been happening in New Jersey since 2018 when Governor Murphy took office. The minute Governor Murphy took office, you probably saw $100 million in lobbying money come to the state of New Jersey from big MSOs all over the country, trying to lobby our state Senate and our state assembly for cannabis laws that benefit them, don't benefit the actual industry or in the actual market. And we had a 2018 round of applications. We had a 2019 round of applications, all for medicinal. And I think 75% of those licenses all went to companies that were out-of-state operators. You might have a company who set up an LLC in New Jersey who has a CEO who's from New Jersey, but the entire license application is backed by an MSO's operating SOPs, management team, everything. So everything that they said happened in Massachusetts is happening in New Jersey. And to Alyssa's point, and to Ulysses' point, actually, when he said he has to take off the business owner hat and put the lobbyist hat on, as a small operator, we're trying to play the same role as an entire multi-million-dollar C-suite management team where they can have 10 people in 10 different places at the same time, and each one of them has $100,000 in their back pocket to grease the wheels of whoever they need to grease. Here I am, I got to be at a town hall meeting while Jonathan's at a networking event, and we have nobody to be at the store in Milburn, our CBD store. So we don't have the same resources to compete with some of these guys. So we rely heavily on the advocacy, the legacy market to, spill our hearts out to the state Senate and all the municipal town hall meetings and testify about why they want legacy market operators or why they want small business operators as opposed to MSOs. And one of the hardest things to combat is when you go and speak to a town council and to a mayor, they want something they feel is a surefire hit or that they know is going to come in and be successful. And when you have, for instance, myself and Jonathan, no real cannabis industry experience in terms of working for a licensed operator, but we have years of legacy experience and years of other, business experience, we still can't compete with what they feel would be a better business in their municipality. They want to make sure the 2% tax revenue comes in day one. They don't want to wait. They don't want to wait for us to get up and running or to be cash flow positive. They don't care about any of that. They don't care about net capital deficits. They don't care about it. They want their money. They want it now. And some of the things that we were seeing in some of the previous applications and we're seeing now, you have to pay to get a municipal approval letter, right? Some of these municipalities are literally putting it in their ordinances. The municipal approval fee is X. Like, you want me to pay $10,000 to get an approval letter for you, and I got to pay the state $20,000 to get a license? make it make sense. I don't have that kind of money. Me and Jonathan, just to try to, give ourselves the appearance of being up, poured everything we had into a CBD and hemp store to give ourselves some type of, prove that as a legacy market, we have business acumen, because that's been one of the biggest stigmas to overcome. It's like, and I was on the phone with an investor who was telling them mine and Jonathan's story. The first thing he said to me, the CRC is not going to care about your experience smoking weed. I was like, I got a lot more experience than just smoking weed. Like that isn't my experience. How many times have you broken down a pound? And how many times have you gone through this? So it's hard to, I have investors who care more about the fact that I spent 13 years in banking than they care that the fact that I know every terpene on the list. They don't care about my cannabis knowledge. They think I look better because I have banking experience, when in fact, a banker knows nothing about cannabis. Your average banker knows absolutely nothing about cannabis, except how to roll it up and consume it. That's about it. So
we found out David smokes weed every night with his stepson, so it's cool. That's fine. Jonathan, you're the why guy. I think Illinois, I think it was the headline, has 11 billion or some huge number in sales. Not one dispensary is owned by an SC or EE applicant yet. Why?
Illinois, I can't say why, but yeah, like I say, they just go for those multi-state operators, and they make it, to Carl's point, they make it seem like we don't know what we're doing when it comes to business, as if, being in the legacy market, you've never learned anything. But then it's like, you got guys like Carl, and I know me for myself, I've helped open up a successful dog business, a dog and grooming business, 2 of them actually, that are doing very well. I own my own dog sitting and dog walking business. So it's like, when it comes to business, I know and understand it, and I can put things together, and I can make money, and I can make a profit. But like you say, when we sit there and talk to these MSO, all these other guys or these investors, they make it seem like our years in the legacy market are worth nothing. And I feel like that's what a lot of legacy guys that are coming from the legacy market are dealing with across the nation, period. And when it goes to state and town to town, and everything seems to be just focusing on, we want these MSOs because they have more of a proven record. But when it comes down to actually quality, and you're starting to see it, it's been here in Jersey, all the callbacks and all the mold and all the even the pest, like even finding worms in your product, in your final medicinal product, not even like a recreational or adult use product. In a medicinal product, you're still finding worms and mold, and it's just like, well, that's what happens when you run to MSOs, and those are the problems you start to run into. So it is a huge challenge, and it's
come out months afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah, and those recalls come out after a whistleblower, so it's like, and you figure that the states are going to pick those up. So it's like almost as if when it goes state to state, they're gearing their laws and their regulations and everything based on what the MSOs want, which is what makes it harder for us little guys to kind of get in.
Ulysses, are you there? Can you hear me? I know he's talking. You're a legacy that made it kind of through this race. I'm not that you're totally done with your delivery, but you're wrecked. Did you feel these? How did you get through it? As these guys are kind of, at the marathon, they're at mile 2, you're at 25. What would you tell these guys looking back on, being able to get through the pressures of the MSO and getting to where you're actually do your first retail sale?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's definitely more of an Ultraman than a marathon.
Yeah, 80 miles. Sorry, yeah, that's what he said.
Something crazy like that. But honestly, as these gentlemen were talking from Jersey, it made me think about the conscious decisions that transpired to get this far, right? Because I'm tapped into dudes that still run around this neighborhood that I'm in, because we're not in a Main Street neighborhood. We're in a pretty much a projects, like a hood where our store is. And, I know dudes that want to transition, but they make the conscious decisions to stay 1 foot in, where, for me, it was like, all right, I'm going to put my head down and really focus on this and not deviate from that, right? So I think that it's a rock and a hard place, because to be honest with you, there's a lot of people who don't believe in the industry or even the opportunities in the industry, like an equity program or like things that the states do to try to get more involvement, or as Massachusetts puts it, essentially full participation, right? So people who are in the legacy market, traditionally don't believe in the government. They don't believe in, what I'm saying, that there are opportunities that we can take place in. So I think, at least for me, that's one of the biggest things, is that like trying to understand like what they put forward in front of us and how to take advantage of that. I've always been a person to not be afraid to ask questions and not be afraid to ask for help. So I think that's one thing that it's not necessarily involved with the legacy, but it has to do with your kind of personal ethos, if you will. But I think I'm trying to think about what was the question again.
Well, these guys are kind of just starting the rec process as
Right.
SE and EE, and you've actually done
Right.
a retail sale. You're working on your delivery,
Right.
and you had to go through this. You had to go through
Right.
the MSOs and the people getting bought off.
Oh,
And
that
what
was
can you
that
do
was it.
right off
Yeah.
the bat? You know, like how did
Yeah.
you get through the part of, well, you're not an MSO. How can we?
Right.
How does
Right.
Worcester know that you're going to get up running quickly and they're going to get their money?
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. So yeah, aside from making the conscious decision to be full in with like studying licensing and getting through licensing and business operations, is that we do have to play nice in the sandbox with these MSOs, right? So I think the biggest thing is that they respect someone who is out the mud, like bootstrap effort, if you will. I have no problem with calling Cureleaf or any of these bigger operators and asking questions on what we need. So I think that's the biggest thing, is that, like, you know, once you get it out the mud, once you do it on your own, you have the basically resources to reach out, because they do play nice in the sandbox once you get to a certain point. So I think that's the biggest thing on my behalf, at least for my business, is that, you know, I put up my own funds. I was able to raise funds with family and friends, and because we got to a certain level, now we're in the ball game, right? And now they, you know, that they have to respect our effort. And I think that's one of the biggest things that are telling, is that, like, once you get to a certain point, people are willing to offer up information, and the conversation shifts a little bit, where it's not like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. It's more or less like, oh, we want to be a part of what you're doing now. And that's literally any company in Massachusetts, any of the larger companies in Massachusetts. They, you know, they want to work with us because we're in a unique situation.
Gotcha.
So just real quickly, Alissa, you're going for home delivery operator, marijuana delivery operator license. So you're going to act like a mini Amazon.
No, we have a courier.
Oh, no,
license.
well, Alissa. So I'm
Alissa,
just
gotcha.
around real quick. So Alissa, you're looking to be basically a miniature Amazon of weed. You'll buy product wholesale and then take orders over the internet and deliver it. Ulysses, you've got a retail store, but what other licenses do you have?
Yep. So we have a manufacturer's license, and then we have a courier license. The manufacturer's license is commence operation. The courier is at provisional, and it'll be at final license by December.
That's great. So you're buying your product on the secondary market?
No. So we produce our own product. Again, vertically integrated is important for equity. So this is all under one roof, right? We have our manufacturer's license in the back, our retail in the front, and in between is our delivery inventory room. So a little different. Vertical integration is important for equity.
So earlier you mentioned about $60 versus $30, right?
Mhm.
Because it would cost you $60 if you're buying it and it's all pre-packaged versus $30 if you buy it wholesale and package it.
Right.
That's buying from third parties or that's coming out of your own grow?
No, that's coming from cultivators.
It is. So third party. So how much of your product with your own cultivation, how much of your sales are you able to support yourself versus what you have to buy from third parties?
So are you asking the percentage of products that we produce?
Yeah. I'm just trying to get some insight on that.
That's a great question. We definitely sell our inventory flies through what we produce here, because one, it looks cool. We produce our own product. Two, it is superior because we're handpicking these nugs and we're producing these pre-rolls, you know, at small batch. And then three, it's economical, right? So not only can't you get it elsewhere in the way that it looks, but, you know, the price point's on point. So I wish I had more data behind like what we sell through, but I know we sold through a lot of different strains that we curated here, made pre-rolls with, or did packaging ourselves. It definitely flies faster than any other categories.
Or Jonathan, Carl, Carl, go ahead.
I had a question for
you to tee you up. You're ready to go.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I had a question for Ulysses, actually. How long did the state of Massachusetts put a restriction on how long you had to wait before you were allowed to own the manufacturing license as well as the retail license, or were you allowed to apply for both at the same time?
So we actually got our provisional license for manufacturing and retail around the same time. Yeah.
And I think
it means you can do both at the same time, apply for both at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think that is a big difference I think that's a big mistake New Jersey is making on our end, where you can't own interest in any other license for at least a year or 2 years.
Yeah.
So if we get a retail license, we have to wait 24 months before we can apply for ownership of another license. And that is where, and it's simple economics. That's why the price of weed in New Jersey is so high, because they're forcing dispensaries to buy prepackaged cannabis from the manufacturers and cultivators. So the price point is going to be higher, period. That's why we have $85 eighths in the medical industry. and almost
That's
$450 ounces because, and these are from medical alternative treatment centers who do have vertical licenses, who are cultivating, and the price points are still that high. So how high is it going to be when, as a retailer, we have to purchase it third party? And then our delivery licenses, why another reason I love Massachusetts delivery operator license, Ulysses is going to be able to purchase wholesale and then sell retail, whereas the delivery licenses in New Jersey have to be teamed up with a dispensary. So I have to buy it wholesale. I have to then price it retail, and then my delivery service that I'm third party is going to have to add on some ridiculous Uber Eats fee where your eighth is $50, but the fee is going to be $30. So that I think is where a lot of the legalization is hurt by being so compartmentalized by state, because no state is setting it up the same way, which is why California's got $100 ounces and New Jersey will have $500 ounces. I think that's a big issue that New Jersey has created inside their laws and regs.
All right, I'm going to jump in, folks. Stick with us. You're on our Friday afternoon Green Rush show. It's 5 o'clock. We're going to take our top of the hour break. We're going to be back in a few minutes.
Weed Talk and In the Weeds are two productions of Pro Cannabis Media supported by Revolutionary Clinics, one of the top medical cannabis dispensaries in the Massachusetts area, now with 3 locations in Greater Boston, 2 in Cambridge and 1 on Broadway in Somerville. Rev Clinics has a patient-first mission. They will customize your needs as a medical patient with the proper titration and combination of strains, flavors, and products. Rev Clinics, where the patient comes first.
Difference is building a solution for that individual. Not just a custom, here's a box, here's a video, here's how you make your VMS. We custom design and custom build every situation for exactly what the customer needs. And we keep the cost low. We have multiple tiers, as far as what you're looking at on the cost side of things. If you want a one-time, where you just pay one initial cost, we have that. If you want to maintain your system and have the highest protection and highest capabilities and highest upgrades at all times, we have different plans for you. But we scale it so it's scalable and affordable 100%.
Pro Cannabis Media programming is available live and on demand on our Facebook page at Pro Canna Media, on Instagram at Pro Cannabis Media, on LinkedIn also at Pro Cannabis Media, on YouTube and YouTube Live on Pro Cannabis Media, Twitter at Pro Canna Media, and on twitch.tv/Pro Cannabis Media. So like, share, and subscribe to all of our content, newsletters, and shows live or on demand.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.